Welcome to What the Biz, where we talk about building successful businesses, balancing life, and all the WTB in between. With your hosts,
I'm Brigitte Vegter.
And I'm Dan Proczko. Hello. What's going on? Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We're here. We almost weren't, to everybody listening. I was in my own little zone, lost track of time entirely. I had all my notifications turned off. I was in like hyper super focus, and I didn't notice because Brigitte was there texting me, emailing me, wondering if I was alive. Like, are we recording today? Are we not? Where are you? What's going on? Is everything okay? Like, I get that email with that dreaded subject line, like, is everything okay? And so I'm just like, oh my gosh, I totally, time just slipped my mind and everything. And
well, that's because it's unusual, right? Like we both have our like, oh, I'll be there in like 10:15 because something, like we're in something, but like it's unusual for either of us to not. So it's like, I really hope Dan's like, okay, like, should we do a wellness check on Dan?
Yeah. And I mean, and I, I've got the access to all the controls and everything. So it's not like you could record an episode without me. So it's just like, what's going on? Yeah. Usually here on time. It's kind of funny that I'm the one that's all late, not paying attention, because today we're doing the flip of last week's episode, which was, 10 questions to ask when hiring a bookkeeper. Today, we're going to explore some questions to ask the marketing agency that you're looking to hire. And so it's like my wheelhouse, and I'm late and not paying attention. It's horrible.
No, you were just working in the zone. Your zone of genius.
No, that's exactly what it was. I was neck deep in working on a presentation, giving a talk at an event, which by the time this airs is already going to be over. And hopefully I'll be releasing that video as kind of a kind of fun freebie for others to take a look. But yeah, like neck deep in that and finalizing it and figuring out like segues and getting my slides all together, that I just totally lost track of time. Yeah. So that talk is all about winning. What am I calling it? I think I'm calling it winning with first-party data in the age of AI. I think it's a mouthful. I'm going to come up with a better name, okay? Because I don't know what that means really quite yet. I think a lot of people, if they hear that, don't know what that means quite yet. I think it's more like, is AI killing marketing? And how to win. There we go. That's a better title. There we go. I think that's more clear. There we go.
It's funny because I see in all kinds of groups right now, which is I think very timely with what we're talking about today too, right? The amount of people that are turning off looking at marketing because they know it's coming from AI. And I think it's really important to still have your voice and partner with somebody that's going to keep your voice and not just be AI piece. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a cool talk actually, where we kind of explore exactly to that point of like, hey, AI is messing with businesses' ability to get views, get awareness, get clicks, etc. And then how is the audience engaging with content because of that? So how do you get out of that? And how do you create your own ecosystem so that you're not reliant on all these other programs? You're not reliant on the algorithm. You're not reliant on search. You're not reliant on, XYZ. And how do you create that? And what do you do with it when you have it? So that's what we're exploring. Talk's only 45 minutes. It's a really crazy topic. So we're getting through a lot of stuff, I'm getting through a lot of stuff in the talk. And once I'm done with what I'm working on today, then comes part 2, which is simplifying it. I have this huge talk, and it's going to be like, what can I cut out that doesn't need to be here? Because I have a tendency of putting too much in. So
all the info.
Yeah, all the info. But anyway, today we are talking about top questions to ask a marketing agency when you're thinking of hiring one. It happens where, as a business, you don't want to hire someone internally to have, a single person on your team to be, the marketing professional. And that makes total sense because some companies can't afford that level of skill or expertise they want in a marketer. And so what they'll do is they'll look to an existing agency to hire on for those services. Really, you're hiring for outcomes, and we'll talk about that. But they'll look to an agency because when you hire an agency, you get a team, or you get a ton of experience, or you get both. Usually it's both. And so we're going to go through what to ask for so that you're just not hiring in the dark or evaluating based on like, ooh, that logo is cool. Yeah. Have you, I know we've talked a lot about marketing a bit, and I know you kept it in-house, but I know you were looking for agencies for a while. What was that search kind of like for you?
So I think they struggle with what we found with hiring an agency. And I will also give the flip side of what I'm seeing with keeping it in-house. I think there's pros and cons to both sides. I think vetting the partnership, which I know you're going to dive into, is so important. And I think even more so now with AI and what we're living in, having somebody that knows your industry, oh my gosh, like the importance behind that, because you can't train your voice or your industry to somebody. That was kind of my struggle. And so I personally was not in a good enough rhythm in my own company to give somebody something functional to let them be successful at being our agency. I think we're at a different place now that I probably would go through these questions and find somebody, or just bring it to my pocket. I can finally give you something, because I knew where I was. I would be handing you something useless. Like,
that's a really good point. Is like sometimes you're just not ready for it, you know. And we've talked about this, how much about businesses in terms of like processes. Do we have things in place where we can then have the mental capacity to add on those new initiatives, et cetera? And man, marketing growth, that's a huge engine to the company. And there are so many business owners, especially when they first start, they are the sales department, you know. And as they grow, they remain to be for a long time, but the company grows to a certain point where they can't generate enough lead flow alone. And that tends to be when they start looking out, you know, like, okay, how do we get more leads in? Which actually leads me to kind of the first point here before we get into some of these questions is like, I have a certain philosophy around sales and marketing and which one you should hire first. Okay. In my opinion, and in my experience, you don't really need a sales representative until you have so many leads and so much growth that you as the owner can no longer manage them. And if you think I'm wrong about that, flip it and say you hire a salesperson first. The question is, what does that salesperson do if you don't have enough leads? If you don't have enough lead flow, if you don't have enough deals for them to work, they don't have a full-time job. So they're sitting around, and then they're going to start doing what a marketer would do anyway. So, and they probably won't be really that good at it because their whole skill set is sales. And honestly, cold calling doesn't work as well as demand lead gen, you know, to fill the pipeline. So
what?
Yeah, right. So as we go into this, if you're like, I just need a salesperson because I don't have time to do that or whatever, you might be right. But maybe it's just that you need a lot more lead flow so that you can justify hiring that salesperson as well. Okay, let's remember that too. Okay, through all this, that's my I don't know, soapbox. Going to get off of it in terms of that little rant and move into some of these questions. Cool.
I'm excited.
Yeah. All right, cool. So I got 3 like foundational questions. These are key for, you know, kind of understanding the philosophy of a marketing agency, how they think and tick a bit. It is much more strategic, these 3 questions, and not as operational. And these are important because one, asking these, you'll have to think for yourself first as a business owner, what I care about. So it forces you to do that, which is great. But the first question is just, what is your marketing philosophy? Is the first question to ask. And this is really where you want to know, you know, what are the metrics they're actually measuring? What do they care about as a marketing agency? You know, do they care about growth metrics like conversions, lifetime value, cost of acquisition? We've talked about these in the past in terms of go back to the our favorite marketing metrics and our favorite, bookkeeping metrics. Like these are really important to a business. And so your marketing agency should want to care about these. If they come to you and talk about vanity metrics like, oh yeah, we focus on likes and getting you comments and then followers. Okay. Not even email subscribers, just like followers. We're going to grow your Facebook community. Honestly, I would run. Okay. That's where I'm at.
That never translates to money.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point. And I would just run real fast because all you're doing is helping whatever that social platform is. If it's Facebook, it's like, yeah, we're just helping Facebook have more Facebook. That's not the point. So understanding that difference and discussing it with the agency is really important to know where they come from and how they think about the world. Second question, what's your team structure? Who am I going to be working with? This is key to help you understand, is there a support staff behind your point of contact first? So what does that structure look like? How many people are at play? And the number doesn't really matter. It could be 1, it could be none, it could be 20. That's not the point. The point is just understanding, is the person that I'm going to be engaging with at the agency day to day the one doing the work? Okay. That's all you have to know. There's no right or wrong in terms of who has access, who doesn't. The reason it's important is that if we see something or as we're communicating with this person, we may have to give more details or give those details in a different way so that they can communicate it better to the rest of the team. It is one reason that this is important. The other reason this is important is that if it's others doing the work and not the one you're talking with, there may be a little bit of lag from the communication point to the action point. And that's okay. Not everything is immediate nor should be. It's just understanding what that is, especially if there's an emergency. That's one reason I bring this up, is that if it is an emergency, what is that process within for communication, from time of communication to seeing something happen? So that's important. The other piece is like, am I going to have the same point person for an extended period of time? So my point of contact with the agency, because that person is really going to get to know your company, and if you're constantly changing people, like right now, oh my God, Google Ads, I get a new representative from Google every 3 months. Every 3 months, I have a new representative from Google Ads. Do you think they know my business? Do you think they know my client's business? Do you think they know, no, because every time the first call I have with them is, what are your goals? What kind of business is this? I'm like, wait, you guys could have done that before calling me by just, looking it up. But beyond that, as an agency, it's like that relationship is huge, because you were even just talking about this, Brigitte, of like understanding who we are, how we work, how we talk, et cetera, is really important.
Well, and there's huge value to that too. Like that's really how when I think of partnering with a marketing agency, and also when I think about partnering with somebody like an accounting firm or somebody that's that deep rooted into your business, like that's how you gain that relationship. And if you know what to expect from that agency out of the get-go, like you said, it's not bad if there are different communication channels, different people, but knowing what to expect, who does what, who is my main point, like that piece is so important. And if you can't get a clear direction out of the agency that you are almost interviewing, right? You are interviewing them.
Yeah.
And they don't have a clear direction for this, to me, that would be another red flag, because you don't really know who you're going to end up with. And that isn't going to yield great results for your marketing at all.
Yes. The other piece is about the team versus solo. A point that hit me while you were talking was like, if they're just a solo agency, a single person, but you're identifying with them that there are huge projects to get done, and they have other clients or they're looking for fast growth, the question is, how quickly are those projects going to get done? Probably not very quickly. So if they don't talk about, oh, we have a whole crew of contractors we work with, or we're actually hiring so that we can support you, et cetera, like those would be kind of flags that might say they're not a fit, or hey, they've got some forward thinking. They're staffing up to accommodate us. Cool. Those are things to keep in mind as well. The final question in this foundational category is, how do you define success for a client? This is really key. I have actually worked with agencies on behalf of a client, so like a third party, that had a very different end goal in mind than what the client did. And it was very weird. Specifically, it was in relation to websites. Okay. We were doing the marketing and result generation. This agency was a website agency, and all they cared about was putting up a pretty looking picture online. And that's not what a website is. And so every time we would push back of like, we're not seeing a call to action above the fold, like above the bottom of your screen. That's what's known as the fold digitally. To those who maybe don't know, stems from the newspaper days. That folds, when it sits there, if it's below it, it's not seen. Anyway, sorry.
I didn't know that
older
history.
Than I am.
I did not know that.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, you didn't?
And
it comes from the newspaper. Yeah.
And it makes sense. Thank you for putting that in perspective.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm talking about it like everybody understands it, and I'm just, sorry. Okay, yeah, so that's below the fold. It's like if you were a writer or photographer, you wanted your stuff above the fold because people would see it and read it. And so but we'd say where's the call to action, or where's this? This is just a photo. There's no text above the fold. What's a person supposed to do? And they would just constantly push back of oh, you want to do that? That doesn't look good. We don't like that. And it's just I don't care what you like or don't like. We've got results we have to generate, So making sure that the agency you're hiring can align with you on your success is really the key piece of this question.
Yep. I mean, if you're moving along two different train tracks and it's your company, right? You're never going to get the results you want from that agency if they aren't aligned on your goal and where you're trying to go. Yeah.
Cool. So that's part one. Those are your mindset questions. The next few are around vetting the work. Okay. And a bit more operational. So the first one I'd ask here, the fourth question is what does your onboarding process look like? We talked about this last week. It's really important to understand onboarding. For us, for some clients, it can be weeks. Okay. That's not to say that you don't get results and or work done quickly. The point is that there are just a lot of pieces in training that have to happen. And if we do it all at once, it's so overwhelming, nobody wants to do it. So we spread certain things out. And so onboarding may be a few weeks. We also have other services where onboarding is a 2-hour call or a 1-hour call, and we're done and we're onboarded and we're good to go. And it's just understanding what is that? And what are all the steps involved? What's the information you need, et cetera. And if a agency doesn't have that defined, like we said last week, that's a clear red flag that potentially things are going to get missed, and things aren't going to work the way that we want.
So I will mention on onboarding, this being really clear. I know the importance from our aspect, but I will say when I considered going with an agency, it was part of the onboarding where there were certain things I wouldn't have had answers to, and I wouldn't have been able to effectively get anywhere. So I think with that onboarding, if there are pieces, the agency, and I know, Dan, you guys do this, you and Jenny have a great, I almost call it the pre-work, where you can actually go through the pre-work of the brand identity and, analyzing what they currently have, because that is so important of the onboarding. Because there are some companies that may come to you that try to jump oh no, we just want you to do, this part of our marketing. And there is sometimes a backup that needs to happen to say, no, we need to identify XYZ of your brand, your voice, where are you going, that some agencies don't take the time to do in their onboarding.
Right.
And so that alone kind of triggered where I was I can't actually answer this. But that is the difference between a great onboarding process and a great plan for success in onboarding versus just a vague, oh yeah, we'll have your ad set up in 2 days. Well, how are you going to do that if you don't actually know who I am?
I mean, for me, one of the things I hate is self-guided onboarding. I kind of hate. I'm not opposed to it. I get it. There's some agencies that do it, but it's if this is the agency I'm going to trust to grow my business, but they're not willing to help me get up to speed or get the right accounts delegated, et cetera, to me, that just feels I don't know, the relationship just isn't there. It feels a little bit cold, and I know there's many that do it. There's even services out there that are like, we'll help your agency do this so you don't have to sit on a call for 2 hours. But there's something about that, like you build trust and rapport with a client when, like, that's what we feel we're doing when we're on the call for the 2 hours to make sure we got access to your website, we got access to the Google Ads, we got access to your Facebook. There's also like sometimes the accounts aren't set up correctly. And if you're doing the automated, self-service, they don't have a way of fixing it. And so it runs into roadblocks, and then you end up scheduling those meetings anyway. So we just end up fixing and taking care of everything all at once in that onboarding call. And we figured out how to do it. We have 1 or 2 hours and done. We can fix everything or have you set up. And it just depends where you're at and how much, that'll depend whether it's 1 hour or a 2 hour call. But that's what we do. And the onboarding, it goes really well. Clients love it too, because we always go through like, here's how your account's set up. Here's how you're billed for everything. Here's who has access to everything. Do we need to fix or change any of that? Like, and the clients afterwards are just like, I think I've learned more about Facebook in the last hour than I have in the last 10 years of using it. Like, that's how they feel coming off of it. And it's awesome. It's awesome.
Well, it gives you the opportunity for that back and forth conversation. If you're self-onboarding, you can't have that functional conversation, which is huge value. Yeah.
Yeah. So make sure they've got a good onboarding system. Question 5, what metrics do you track and how do you report on them? Now, this kind of echoes a little bit of like that first question, that we brought up of, what's your marketing philosophy? What metrics do you care about? The real important here is how do you report on them? And this is about accountability. So how do you hold yourself accountable and how do you communicate to us what the results are and how things are going? If they don't have like a regular meeting with you, or if they don't send you regular reports, or if they're not available to you to report on all of them, big red flag. They should be proactive. They should be coming to you, or have, what we do is we just have a standing meeting every month. It's just there. And then we actually communicate in between all the meetings of, hey, here's what we're seeing, here's what's going on, and here's what we need from you to prepare for that meeting so we can provide more strategic marketing advice of here's what we're seeing happening, here's what you need to have in place, et cetera, to do better. So yeah, good question on that front. The next one is an echo from last week as well. What's your communication policy? This is important because, well, communication is key. How do we do this? Are we emailing? Is that the primary method? Is it messaging chat? Are we in a Slack channel? Are we using a white label, platform where we have to log in and submit a ticket, or is it phone calls? And like I said before, meeting cadences. What does that look like? I've seen varying degrees of access. Let's put it that way. Levels of access with agencies where I've seen some where just like email only. I've seen some where just like, no, you have to submit this support form. And I'm just like, guys, what if I have an emergency? Like, you're running something for me. And what if it's not working or something went out with blah, blah, blah. Oh no, you fill out that form. Okay. And then what's your response time? Like, whether or not these are right or wrong, it's just good to know what these are and know what this agency has as a communication policy. We pretty much are open on all of it. I got some clients that love texting me. And no matter how much of a interruption some of that is, it's up to me to ignore it. It's not up to the client, et cetera. It's how they like to communicate. So we try to create this ecosystem where we bring all of those messages together so we see them somewhere from all the clients and then we respond. We do have, we tell all of our clients, we have a 24-hour, give us 24 hours for first response. Okay. I get that 4:30 on a Friday sounds like a great time to email us with something. I mean, I'm just going to be realistic. Unless it's an emergency, it's going to wait. It's just going to wait. You have a weekend. I have a weekend. But don't get me wrong. If I'm able to make it happen or to communicate back, I will. Because everybody hates waiting a whole weekend. That's the worst. So at the very least, we try to respond on Fridays, just like, hey, thanks for that. We're going to look into this over the weekend. We'll get back to you on Monday, et cetera, about it. And we'll go from there. But if they don't have a policy, again, you run that risk of, are they serious about this? Am I going to hear from them? If I email them, will I even get a reply? Those kinds of things.
Well, and I will say you're investing a lot of time when you're diving into a relationship with an agency. And if out of the gate, your communication expectations are going to be like misaligned, you will be frustrated. You will be frustrated by the relationship. So this is one of those areas that I feel like needs to be 100% aligned and at least understood. And if you want, I call it the Cadillac level service, right? If you want that top level service and you want them to respond to you faster, then it's probably a different engagement with that provider. This is a great way to make sure that you're even aligned in the type of relationship you're engaging in, just by making sure you're aligned with the communication cadence and how often and how does it look, and how quickly do I get a response? Because starting this type of relationship that is going to take time, like I think from my perspective, and Dan, you can totally tell me if I'm wrong, but from my perspective, there is unrealistic expectations from business owners when it comes to hiring a marketing agency. Like, they think just because the marketing agency is a expert in the field that they are going to get overnight results. The best of the best marketers cannot get you overnight results because it takes time to build whatever it is they're doing for you. It takes time. It takes time for the algorithms. It takes time for the ads. It takes time to undo maybe the bad things you've already done. Like, you're looking at a minimum, like, in my opinion, year commitment to whoever you are going with to make sure that you are giving it the full capability to be as good as it can be. And so entering into this with frustration out of the gate, you're never going to make it to the point of knowing whether it could be a success or not, which is why these questions are so important.
Thank you for bringing that up. I'm actually going to bring up something in that vein a little later, so I won't linger on it. But no, that's so true, though. I've had a couple of new clients that started recently, and literally like 3 weeks in, it's just like, when am I going to see blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, they were already seeing it, and we had already communicated it. But it's this whole misalignment of expectation of just like them thinking that it was going to be like 10x what it was, and there's a whole thing around like letting the marketer do what they do with enough time to prove it. And we've talked about this too with like projects. So look, I'm not going to go too far because I want to talk about that in a second. I want to go a little bit deeper on it. Okay. All right. Part 3. We're going to go back, put a pin in it. Here we go. Part 3. These are like what if long-term, longevity vetting questions here. Okay. So how do you handle creative or strategic disagreement? Is a great question. We run into this a lot, especially when it comes to design, graphics, or even word choice. People have this idea. We all have this idea of what our companies are, the brand, what we want to sound like and look like. Then there's what the marketer knows works because they have all this experience and know something to work. And so we quite often actually run into this and have some friction with clients. The thing we keep telling them is, remember that we have all this experience and do know what works. So let's remember that. But that is very dismissive as an agency, okay? Because what you're telling the client is, I hear you, but it doesn't matter, okay? That's not true. It does matter. So the best agencies, and this is what we do, is we will test. We're all for testing. We love A/B testing. We want to put our work to test against other ideas. We want that to be the case. And then we'll show the data. And so that's really what we tell a lot of our clients is like, cool, we want to match your brand as much as possible. From time to time, you will see things that may not fully align the way you think it does. Okay. We believe it does. What we would ask is for an open mind to allow us to test those elements against what you think matches brand, or just against previous results and previous outcomes, just to see does something work better. Okay. Most times clients will say yes, like, let's do that. Let's test. They understand, that in itself is enough to understand when we bring that up. They understand it's like, oh, cool. They're willing to learn. It's not just their way or the highway. They hear me. They want to try it, see what works, help accommodate what I'm asking for. And if it doesn't work, why would I want to keep doing it either? That's the thing. Most times it's like clients and or agencies have this thing in their head of either or. We're either doing my way or your way. There's no middle ground. It's like, no, why don't we just do both for a short period of time? We'll see what works. If anything, the agency will learn something or the client will learn something, and in the end, who wants to spend money on something that doesn't work? So if, that's just one methodology here around it, or not methodology, but like a clear, solid way of handling, when there's strong opinions around, say, something like design. Really important. The other piece here is there a clear, or at least when onboarded, a clear method for approval? Like, how do we get approvals for creative? How do we get approvals for copy so that we know things are ready to launch? What does that look like? And depending who you work with, they will have a methodology that they want to use, or you'll develop it together. There's no wrong way. One way or the other is fine. The point is it clear? That's how I'd kind of handle that question.
And I think that's really fair. And the having an answer that both parties win, I think, is very important. And I would say that when you were talking about that, by both parties winning, an agency is working with other businesses. If they are also A/B testing, do you want to know what value is coming from all of these A/B tests? They're going to impact and help every business that this agency is working with. So if you hear an agency say, we want to test, like, we know that this is working, but we are certainly happy to test what you think too, you are going to get the value of them doing that with everybody they're working with. Hello, results.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I didn't say that yet. Is yes, everything we learn, we share. We don't share specifics about different companies, but like those strategies that work, yeah, we're going to bring that to every one of our clients because we want every client to succeed. So, I mean, just thinking about that is like, if an agency is saying we're seeing this and test with other clients that this works, or we're willing to A/B test to learn more, to see a better path or find something new. Oh my God, that is huge. Because who wants to work with somebody who doesn't want to change, doesn't want to evolve? I mean, how much has the internet and internet marketing, or just marketing in general, evolved?
In the past 10 minutes.
Yeah, right.
You're already behind, Dan. You're going to have to leave and go research.
The fact that we took a half hour to record this, we're behind. I have to go to my own seminar just to relearn the last 30 minutes of marketing. Here we go. Yeah. Question 8. We talked about this last week. What happens if we outgrow your services? Most marketers actually don't ever believe you will. Just FYI, I want you to know there's so many that are like, oh yeah, we can do that. We can do the next piece. This plays along with the question around what's your team structure, what's going on. If it's an agency that's growing, that is hiring, bringing in other clients, or understands how to use technology, outgrowing may be difficult, to be honest. But if your company is growing exponentially, and say you started with the agency as a $1 million company and now you're a $100 million company, your needs are very different. They are not going to keep up with you. That's okay. If they're good, just like we said last week, they should have connections to other agencies, and they can and they'll pass you off in that way, or some other. So they'll have some solution for you, like here's what we're going to do to streamline for you, like to make sure that our services, expand with you. But for the most part, they'll have other connections like we do too. We've got agencies that are much larger than ours that work in different size companies. And so, yeah, we just pass them off in that way, or make introductions really, and hope things go, and help that, not hope things, we help that transition so that, things move well. Final question. How do you handle client churn or a project that isn't working? I really like this question because this kind of goes back to the previous one when I said, look, agencies don't think that a client are going to outgrow. The average lifespan of a client for a marketing agency is anywhere from 3.5 to 7 years. Okay. Sometimes it's shorter. Okay. And the reason for that is an agency, comes in and helps a client reach a certain level. And when they reach that level, the client doesn't need as much investment anymore because maintenance is different than growth. And so usually what happens is when they hit that level, or they reach some plateau and don't think the current agency is going to take them to the next one, they switch agencies or they switch methodologies, et cetera, or the investment with the current agency reduces. We consider that churn. If you're going to spend half as much with us, that's churn on some level. A good agency is just going to maintain their integrity, professionalism, and just understand, relationships change. Your company's needs are going to change, and we may lose you, and that's okay. The whole point is not that. The idea is that we hope that we're all parting on good terms, that we've helped you reach that next level, and that together we identify that we're no longer a fit, and then we help you evolve, and move on to a new partner or a new strategy. The key thing is to have an agency that will help with the offboarding, and that they also have a process for that they're not malicious. We have run into a lot of agencies that are malicious. So this question, isn't really around, how do you actually handle churn? This question is really around, how are you going to handle if we fire you? That's really what we're asking here. And it's pretty clear, with the answers. If they're like, look, we are going to help you move to your new partner. We're going to help, give access to your new partner is going to be able to migrate, et cetera. If you need our help in it, we can, we definitely have a service for offboarding where we will do the migration for you. There's an offboarding fee. As long as they're clear and open around all of this, it's really clear. If there's an agency, and I have seen them, Brigitte, this is horrible. They have contracts that say 6-month notice. I saw one with 3 year note. And I'm just like, what? That can't be legal. You know what I mean? And the worst part was that agency had registered the domain and hosted the website. So their domain wasn't even theirs. And this agency was not willing to give it up because of the agreement that they had put in place. And it's just these things really matter. So look, read your contracts. Okay. I guess I could have put that in here as another question. But make sure you own your brand things and just delegate access. That's the key thing. That's part of onboarding. We delegate, we ask for access to be delegated. That way our clients all own everything. But yeah, this question is important in that way to understand what their actions and what their systems are internally for when a client is lost.
Well, I think overall, when I'm thinking about everything you've talked about, an agency that has their stuff together and very clear processes and can be very open about, here's what we track, here's how we report, here's how we talk, here's how we onboard, here's how we offboard. If they have all of that very much in place, that tells me that is an agency that is there for the ebbs and the flows and would have your back. If they can't, I guess, answer those things in a very clear way for you, you should have many red flags raising throughout these questions.
Yeah.
And I think the disengagement part is probably one of the more important in my mind because of the fact they could potentially hold the keys to your business presence. And if there is not a great way to make that happen, that would be scary, right? Losing access to your website, scary. All of your funnels, all of your contacts. Definitely one of the very important questions. But overall, how do they answer these things? What guidance, what answers do they really have for you when you're asking these hard questions?
Yep. So we got these 9 questions. We're going to hire a marketer. I just want to touch just for a moment here. We touched on it a little bit earlier, about giving time for the marketer to do what they need to do. Now, that sounds like kind of like a nebulous piece, but look, if they're aligned with you on mindset, if they're aligned on goals, they're aligned on what success looks like, it's going to take some time, So number one, give it enough time. We talked about that, in our project episode, how we deal with expansions. If you're going to expand your business into a new region, a new niche, et cetera, you have to give it the amount of time that it requires to get there. And I agree with a year. Okay. I think you start to see certain things around 6 months, even 3 months, but that's more around communication and cadence, at 3 months. 6 months is where you start to see certain results. But that's really where you start to hit the stride is 6 months. You don't, up until that point, everything is building until 6 months. Then from 6 months to a year is where you realize all of the learning that was done over those 6 months. That's where you realize the outcome is 6 months to a year. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to test something for 3 months, one, you're not going to see the results that you could get with that marketer, period. And if you wait until 6 months, well, you put in all the time for everything to learn, but now you're not reaping the rewards, So you're shooting yourself in the foot two ways. So I want to say that, and that's just inherent in how a lot of the marketing platforms work nowadays, especially advertising, SEO. A lot of these things are long-term, where you have to allow things to learn and take root and change. So that's kind of like the first thing I want to touch on. The second piece here is around technology. While a lot of platforms can do the same thing, marketers aren't really all experts in every platform. For example, we know a few like email automation platforms really well, but we don't know them all. Okay, so we understand high level. We know MailChimp, and we sort of know Keep/Thrive, but not really well. So look, if a client came to us and is just like, we want to start a market and automation platform, or we want you to manage our current platform. But if you're not willing to move over to the platforms that we know, it's going to be really hard for us to work together, okay? Because we're not experts in those other fields. So really one of two things will happen. Either one, we don't work together, or two, let's migrate over and work together, So if you really believe in the agency and the results they've provided, you like their style, their communication, et cetera, give them a chance and migrate, as a business, whether my emails are being sent from High Level or MailChimp, I don't care, to be honest. What does it matter? It really doesn't. It's just, are they being delivered? Are they being opened? Do I continue to have the brand style and voice I want to have? And do I get the results? Do I get it? So I guess my point here is marketers are experts in certain fields and in certain areas and certain technology platforms. Some of them we don't have to be precious about. Okay, is all I'm getting at. Especially if, say, you use MailChimp to send emails once a week. If they ask you to migrate to a new platform, don't care about it. It's okay. You're not so entrenched in the platform that it's such a huge cost to migrate. Okay. Now, if you have a whole automation system already built out in a platform and you like it, and this agency is telling you to migrate, all right, let's really talk about this and let's really go into a project discovery. Let's talk about why we're doing all this and everything, because I like where I'm at and I see results. So why am I switching? Those are, key questions then. But just understand, marketers are not experts in every platform. And while
if they claim to be,
problem. Yeah, that's a problem too. We are not the best at geofencing. I'll just admit it. We don't have a ton of geofencing skills. We've done very little of it. I'd love to do more. I would love to find that client that's willing to give me a chance. Okay, let's put it that way. I would love that. But that's a client that is willing to test. We've built up trust, and I'm I think geofencing's right for you. They're willing to go down that. We'll do a minimal budget for a project like we've talked about with a clear timeline. We put all of these safety, the support safety structure around it to find that success. But if marketers are coming in and they're seeing you have something that's really good, you like it, it works well, okay, and they're telling you to change everything, red flag. But remember, you're looking for a marketing agency for a reason, So I get that you like something, but if you're still talking to someone for something better, there's some reason why, and it might be that platform actually doesn't work the way you want. So I don't know. These are some things that get into my mind around when vetting an agency. Them saying to migrate isn't always necessarily a bad thing. They're experts in a certain tool or certain set of tools, and they have proven to you that they can help you reach your goals, proven in the way of, case studies and their communication, et cetera. Give them a chance. Set that contract for a year, make it real clear to them that here are the milestones, of what we expect to see along the way, and go for it. So that was my kind of final little rant around that topic we touched on earlier.
No, I mean, it makes sense, because I think there are varying degrees that businesses start looking for marketing help, right? They may only be using something for an email here and there. And I think taking the advice from the people that you're going to seek out to help you with all of your other goals, don't be turned off from a technology suggestion or change if you're not super integrated, and use your discretion, right? Like use your discretion for how integrated you are. And if you are super integrated, then I guess you probably should be interviewing multiple agencies and getting differing opinions. Doesn't mean that technology change is wrong. It means I would get varying opinions and discern it that way. Yep.
100%. Cool. I like that. I think it's a great place to kind of end that. So just quick summary, like, look, the goal of, hiring an agency and vetting them is really to find out if they're going to be a true partner and put your business success first, and not just somebody who wants your money and vanity metrics. All right. So we're going to put these questions in the show notes like we did last week. Okay. So you can grab them there. And yeah, I think that's kind of it. Good luck in your hiring. If you like what I said, check the show notes. You'll find the link to My Pocket Marketing. I'd love to talk with you. But with that, what's coming up next for you, Brigitte?
We are gearing up for end of volleyball season states. So we will be at an all weekend volleyball state tournament. Actually following when this.
That's a lot of volleyball. That's a lot of volleyball.
So loud.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, not just the shoes, the slapping of the ball, the echoes of the room. Yeah.
All the
energy,
whistles.
the energy. By the end of the day, I've been to a few volleyball tournaments in college. My friends played. I just remember by the end of even 2-3 hours, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm exhausted from the noise. I'm exhausted from how loud this is, but they're so exciting. They're so much fun. I
love watching volleyball. It's one of my favorite sports to watch, but this is a big one. I think they have 4 courts on 4 different sections. So at any given time, there's 16 or 20 courts going all at the same time. Wow. And it is so loud in that arena that
that's great.
Maybe I'll bring earplugs this year. Because the sensory overload, I'm not a sensory person. I become a sensory person. Yes.
There you go. I mean, all that noise, it can be tiring because it takes your attention to filter all of it out and everything. So do it. I think I like that. Earplugs, do it. I think you should do it. Yep. You should do it. On my end, I just finished speaking, so a little bit of relaxation, actually, just a little bit of relax. And just some improv performances. Got Halloween weekend, 2 performances, and then the next week in November, we've got a festival we're performing at. So I'm just gonna relax, do some comedy, and that's about it. Yeah, cool. Thanks for tuning in. If you found some value here today, check out whatthebiz.com and let us know. Actually, just leave a review wherever it is you're listening. Spotify, Apple, this is the best way. It's the best way to let us know you're liking what you're hearing. It helps others know too, and that will help the algorithm. So let us know, and then you help the algorithm. And we go from there. Real cool. If you got an idea for an episode, a topic for us to cover, that's where you can go to whatthebiz.com for sure. Leave us a voicemail, or you can submit a form and let us know, and maybe we'll pick it up in a future episode. If we do, we'll see you then. See you on the next one.